If you're still color grading on Premiere Pro, Final Cut, After Effects, CapCut, you are very wrong. You need to come over to DaVinci Resolve right now because that's where it's happening. Yes, I understand that it might be hectic and uncomfortable to move from your software because you've been using that software for a lot of years. But come on, the goal is to become better, right? If you're trying to become a better colorist and you want a software that has all the tools that it takes to become a pro colorist, then you have to move camp right now. In this video, I'll be showing you the primary tools, the secondary tools, the entire interface of DaVinci Resolve. I'll be showing you the scopes and just to touch on everything and show you why DaVinci Resolve is the real deal. In case we haven't met, my name is Temp. I'm a cinematographer and a colorist. Most importantly, I am a lazy filmmaker. And on this channel, I help you become better at cinematography, lighting, and color grading. So what are you waiting for? Download the software now, open it up, join me as I show you around and I show you the beautiful world of DaVinci Resolve. Let's go! The first thing I'll be talking about will be the primary color wheels. And on the primary color wheels, we have the lift, gamma, gain, and offset, right? Lift, gamma, gain, and offset. I'm going to skim through it just to show you basically what this does. So what you do with the lift, gamma, gain is, make this bigger. What you do is basically you can push this down to control your shadows, the dark side of your shots. Can you see? Great. You can push this to control the midpoints, which is like the midtones. That's the gamma. Then for your gain controls everything at the top end. I'm going to make a dedicated video about each of this. This is just a walkthrough through DaVinci Resolve so you can get familiar. The offset controls everything. So if you push this up, your entire brightness will be brought up equally. Compared to how this one affects just the highlights, this affects the gamma, and this affects the lift. Okay. Aside the primary color wheels, there's also the color bars and there's the log wheels. But I'm not done with the color wheels. Now the color wheels, if you look at it very well, here you have your master wheels. This is where you can affect the luminance. That's the brightness of any of the parameters that you want to affect here. So if you're affecting highlights, you basically push the master wheel here, and the same applies to the remaining two. Now, let's say you want to push some colors into specific areas of your shot. Let's say you want to push some colors into your midtones. You will come here and do that. So now I'm pushing color. You guys can see that I'm pushing reds into the midtones, okay? If I want to remove red, I'll go the opposite direction. I can reset it here. I can also do that by coming here and, reducing my reds. If I reduce my red, what I'm telling the software is that give me the exact opposite color, because if I'm removing red, I'll be introducing the opposite color, which in this instance is cyan. If I double click on this, it also resets and takes it back to 0, 0. So let's say I want to remove green from this shot in the highlight. I can just come here and reduce that. But as I'm pushing it down, you can see that it's going towards purple. Going towards purple magenta, which is on the opposite side. If you look at the color line, that's on the opposite side of the green. So that's how this works. It's quite easy. This is where you're going to spend most of your time using lift, gamma, gain. This is probably where you will spend the bulk of your time color grading because a lot of things happen. And that's why I do on my panel. I do a lot of lift, gamma, gain. See, with this, I've already made the footage go from here to there. Okay. So that's what this tool is for. It's one of your most essential tools. And they're called primaries for a reason, because color grading is like building a house. You have to set a foundation, then you want to put your bricks on it, then you want to put your roof on it. So treat your stages of color as primary corrections, secondary corrections, and then look creation, maybe finishing, okay? So we'll talk about this in more details, but that's basically the approach you want to use to get your color grades consistent every time. Most people start color grading and they skip all the process of color correction and they just jump into creating a look. They just start to introduce colors, which is the secondary phase of color grading. You need to learn the fundamentals. It's like learning to drive a car. You need to learn how to drive a manual car properly first before you start trying to drift. Okay? Write that somewhere. You need to learn how to use the gear of a car first before you can start learning how to drift. So if we continue, there are other things here aside the color wheel and the color the master wheels. If you come to temperature and tint, you can use that to if I increase this, you are going to warm up the entire shot. Bring it the other direction, basically cooling it off. And this is used for if you want to white balance. Maybe you've had a shot where you didn't white balance properly and now you have a lot of blue. You can easily just correct that by removing blue by introducing yellow into your shots. Again, if you look at it, on the opposite side of blue, it's yellow. Okay, so let's reset that and continue. Tint is something that you would probably not see sometimes when you're filming, but most of your cameras sometimes, and most pro cameras also have it. They usually have like a tint that comes with the camera. I know like Canons have like magenta, I think, or yellow. You just see that there's a certain warmth that comes with some of your shots. Cameras like Sony and Blackmagic have some cool tones. I think Sony has more green than cool. Blackmagic sometimes has magenta too. So it depends. So it depends on your camera. But this is where you can kind of take it out. So if you have any of those colors that are present all over your footage, you can come here and remove that. It's something that people do in the camera also, but if you forgot to do that and you are now in the edit, you can save your shots with tints. It can also be used to create like looks if that's what you're going for. However, I barely use that in tints. Contrast is the difference between your bright points and your dark points. So with this shot now, you can see that I'm pushing the contrast up, and you can see that my bright points are becoming brighter and my dark points are becoming darker. If I push it back, you see the difference. Look at the bright points. Even if you look at the, the parade from the scopes here, you can see what happens when I push contrast. You can see that it's stretching out. It's basically like taking the shot from the middle and stretching it out. So you're stretching the top, stretching the bottom. And that is important to note because the next thing is pivot or pivot. Pivot or pivot. Let's go with pivot. Pivot is the point at which your shot starts to spread. Pivot is more like, it's like a nail, something that is, so let's use this analogy. So let's say this is your shot, right? Let's say your shot is represented by from here to here. Pivot is like a nail holding this middle. So when you stretch it, everything here will stay intact. Even if you stretch down, everything here will stay intact, right? But if you move your pivot, that means you're moving, either you're moving it up or you're moving it down. So that you're moving it up, you're moving it down. And this will make more sense when we start to like use it in real case scenarios. So for example, I've set my contrast here now. And if I'm feeling like I don't want my bright points to be affected at this point, I can move my pivots, move it around so that more of the contrast will be applied to the dark points and it will preserve more of my highlights. Again, don't worry about that. We'll get into further details. Just giving you an overview so you get comfortable and you're used to this amazing software called DaVinci Resolve. Okay, so let's go to mid-tone detail. To the chance to know what that does. If I go to full viewer and I'm going to use my panel to do it now, but what I'm doing now is I'm reducing the mid-tone detail. Let me zoom into this shot so you can see. See what happens before and after. See how everything has become soft before and after. That's what mid-tone details, that's what you can use it for. You can use it to soften the details of your mid-tone. And this is very helpful when you start to color grade things like skin and you just want like to soften people's faces. This will be your best friend at the time. But we'll come to like better use cases eventually. Color boost is the next one. Color boost is different from saturation, but they're in the same family. So let's go to saturation first. You guys probably know what this is. That's basically making your colors, richer, making them more saturated, increasing your colors. So you can see how this has increased my colors, right? Let me grab a still. Let me save a copy and I'll reset that. Now let's do the same thing with color boost. Okay. So color boost is a form of saturation, but what it does different is it saturates the lower parts, or it saturates the less saturated points to try to match the points that are very saturated. So forget the English. Let me explain it. Let's say this is a red, red microphone, and this is kind of green. I don't know what it's called, but let's say it's green. So this color is not as colorful in layman terms as this red. If I apply color boost to a shot that contains these two colors, color boost will first attack this color and try to bring it up to match this color. So when it brings it up to match this color and it feels like they're now like on equal level of saturation, it will now start increasing everything. And that might be something that you might want to use sometimes. Maybe you probably have a shot where there's not a lot of color in the background and you want to force the background color out, but you don't want to like saturate things like maybe reds or blue or yellow that is already like saturated in your shot. So imagine like you have a lady wearing a yellow top and she's in a room that is gray, or in a room that is like dull brown, and you want to bring the saturation of the brown, you want to bring it up, and you don't want to affect what she's wearing. Color boost might help you there. However, most of the time, it is not something you want to use because it just makes things ugly. Like you can see how it has brought up the skin tone of this guy because it was assuming, let me reset it. It was assuming that this person is not as saturated. So because he's a dark skinned brother, it was assuming that this person is a lot of color to match the red. So when I did color boost, it boosted this color so much, added a lot of red to it so that it matches this. Then it now continued adding saturation, which is not what you would want. So if we do this and let's reset this and then use the normal saturation. So if we compare it with the saturation version, which is this one, at this point, saturation is at 100 and you can see how it looks. Saturation would increase everything equally. It would bring up everything at the same level. So let's say this color is not saturated. This one is very saturated. Saturation will push everything up. One will not come to meet the other one, so it protects the colors the way it should be. It just adds them in equal values compared to like, color boost that tries to like boost the low colors to match the ones that are highly saturated. And I hope that makes sense. So there are reasons why you might want to use color boost. I use it sometimes to create the white look. I made a video about that already. You guys can go see it. It was a footage sent by one of my viewers, and I decided to use that because that's the ideal situation that you might want to use stuff like that. So again, see the comparison. I'm going to show you again. See color boost. You can see how color boost puts colors in the walls. It can kind of put colors in the white walls because it's trying to force colors out of it. It's trying to bring out colors out of the walls by force. Whereas saturation left the colors the way it is and just applied an equal, value of saturation to everything. See the difference? No color grade. This is just color boost versus saturation. Okay, I'm gonna reset that now. Let's move on to the next thing. We've talked about color boost and we've talked about saturation. The next thing now is shadows, highlight, and hue. So shadows would affect your shadows, right? Basically, it's pushing out the shadows. Highlights would affect your brightest points of the shots. That's your highlight. Very, very easy to understand. We're not going to stress over that. Let's move on. Hue is going to be your color. So hue is the same thing as color. So if you want to like create funky looks, you can swing things around. So basically it's going to look at the entire shot and move all the colors, move them around the wheel. If I show you like the vertoscope here, right? You can watch this place while I'm pushing it around. You can see how it's rotating. It keeps the shape of the colors, but it's moving them around the color wheels. It's almost telling you like, do you want me to try this color palette? However, the problem with stuff like this is it's going to swing your skin color also to a weird color. So you don't want to use this, unless you really know what you're doing and you're using it for an artistic purpose. Okay, the next one is Luma Mix, and I don't really use this, so I'm not going to share a lot about it. I don't use it so much in my workflow, so I'm going to move past it. If you guys know in the comment section, you can drop. Okay, still in the primary color wheels, let's go to the next one, which is the primary color bars. Yeah, so primary color bars works in similar way to the color wheels, to the primary color wheels. It's basically the same thing. Just think of it as sliders instead of a wheel. So for example, like I said, the offset affects everything, right? So if I push blue, blue goes into the entire shot because that's the offset. The same way if I come here and I use this to push blue, the same effect. Or I come here and I push it on the wheel myself, push towards blue. It's the same effect. Another example is if I want to push red into the midtones, which is the gamma, I can come here and increase my reds, or let's say I want to push it in the shadows, come here and increase it, or I want to bring it down. If I bring it down, what I'm doing is I'm introducing the opposite color, which is cyan. So again, if you remove a color, you are telling it to go the other direction. And if I come here now, for example, I've taken my red down and I come to my primary color wheels, did you guys see what has happened? So what I was doing on that side is taking my red down, and what it was doing here is pushing things towards the blue, the cyan. So if you do anything here, and you come to your primary color wheels, you kind of will see what you have done. So it's the same thing And if you prefer to use wheels, then you use that. And if you can see, it has the primary color wheels also. You know, you can have your color wheels here. So it works the same exact way. It's just another tool that you might decide to use instead of using the wheels if that's what you prefer. It's not going to give you a better result. It's the same thing. Maybe it's more precise if that's the way you like to work. I like to work in the primary color wheel, so I stay here most of the time. And it's also on my panel, so it makes my life easier. Okay, let's go to the log. This is another part that is interesting. I'm going to skim through it because there's a dedicated video talking about the primary color wheels. So here it's almost like the same thing that you have in your primary color wheels, but it's log wheels. And what you do with log wheels, just briefly, is that with log wheels, you can target specific regions of your shot. So this is shadow, midtone, and highlights. It's almost like you're saying lift, gamma, gain. However, with shadows, it's going to be very strict and go just to the dark sides of the shot. This one, for example, when I was pushing this up, this is not only affecting just the dark side, it's affecting the dark side, and there's a small gradient of it affecting the midtones, then slowly to the highlight. And I will show you my next video. I'm dedicated to like primary color wheels. Then the same thing with gamma. Gamma affects, you know, it's in the middle. So if you push it down, it affects the dark sides, the midtones, and some of the highlights. But the log wheel behaves differently. In the log wheels, if I push the shadows down, you can see that if you look at my shot very well, right, while I'm pushing it down, my skin tone is not affected at all. It's basically sitting in the right place, and the dark points are getting darker. Let me do the same thing for my highlights. If I push my highlights up, you can see my shadows. If you look at this place, for example, it's not moving. It's not bothered. It's like, this is not my business. You can see the shadows are staying. So your log wheels are where you can go to for like very precise, you know, you want to fix things precisely. You want to push colors into specific regions. It's very tricky though, because it's easy for you to like break your image when you're doing that if you don't know what you're really doing. But just so you guys understand that that is how the log wheel operates. It's very precise. It goes straight. It's like, you have told me to push shadows, and I'm going to do shadows. I don't have any business with highlights. Okay, so that's it about primary color wheels. You have the HDR, which is a bit more interesting. What this does is it separates your regions, it separates your dark sides, your midtones, and your highlights, and it separates them into 3 different groups each. So that means your dark side has 3 different bands, your midtones has 3 different bands, your highlight has 3 different bands. So basically what it's doing for you is, instead of just limiting you to just 3 different bands, it's giving you like 9 bands. So for your dark side, you have black, you have dark, you have shadow. Let me just show you briefly. If I select these points, you will see all the parts that are selected. So all these parts are the parts that fall in the shadows. If I come to black instead, you can see that it's selected just the darkest points of the shots. So whatever you affect or you want to do will affect just this. So in case you want to do extra precise adjustments, you can use the HDR tools. The same thing with dark. So you can see dark now has added some extra level of darkness. It's almost like good, better, best. So, you know, there's good, there's better, there's best. You know, so it's at different tiers. This is shadow. The same thing if I come to like, let me go to the extreme end and show you what happens. So you come to light, you see how much, if I select this tool, you see what is selecting as light, right? This is like the brightest point, which is what's working here. If I come here and I push my gain, those are the points that my gain would affect. With the HDR tools, I don't have to be limited to just that region that my primary color bars or primary color wheels would allow me to touch. If I click highlight, you see it's just the extra bright point that has been selected. So if I come to specular, specular will select the brightest point of the shot. In this case, it's not seeing anything. That's because this shot is in log mode, so it's not really seeing it as anything super bright. But if I come to highlight, you'll see the windows. The windows are like the shots. It's like, okay, this is the bright points of this shot. If I come to light, it would open up the range a bit more and give me like the white shots, give me the guy's skin tone, the light guy's skin tone, and, you know, see some highlights on this part of the boxing bag. If I come to like black, you'll see there's almost nothing there again because this shot is not converted yet, so it's not seeing any blacks. If I come to dark, it shows me the dark points. If I come to shadows, it shows me like things that fall in the shadows. So that's how this works. And in my other videos dedicated to like this entire primary tools, you will see how I use all these things. So coming to the next one is the RGB Mixer. It's almost like a mixer. You can mix levels of green, red, and blue that you want in your shots. And it's a bit, you know, it's fun to use, but it's a bit tricky. And I'll be honest, I've not figured it out 100% because I don't just like, my brain does not like things like bar, so I don't really use this tool. However, I know it's one of like, it's a very strong tool that people use, but I don't really use it as much. In the future, when I figure it out, I'll come out and teach you guys. Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is the noise remover. You might not have this if you're using the free version, but this is the noise remover and it's really good. So if you, for example, I use something like this and then it just cleans up my shots. So let's just do before and after. Before, gonna go full view. I can look at this guy's arm. This is before, this is after. So how clean it is before and after. All right. I wouldn't use that much for a shot like this, but just to show you guys, I exaggerated it a bit. All right, so let's reset that. And those are the primary tools of DaVinci Resolve. It's basically where you spend most of your time when you start out. It's where you kind of finesse looks and create looks and kind of get a very good sense of what it means to color grade. There are other things that you will need to learn eventually. If you can master the tools in this part of DaVinci Resolve, there's no grade you won't be able to tackle, for real. Okay guys, so while I was editing this video, I realized that I was becoming a bit too long, and because I don't want you overwhelmed, I decided to split it into 2 different parts. So the next video is a continuation of this one, and we'll be talking about the secondary color tools in DaVinci Resolve. Keep watching.